I'll be demonstrating how to get started working the pattern Ridgely. Ridgely is a two-colored shawlette, part of my mystery knit along. For demonstration purposes, I'll be using 3 different colors where the pattern only calls for 2, but you'll see why it'll be helpful because I have 3 colors. So looking at your pattern, you will know that you need to cast on 16 stitches in the main color. In this video, the blue yarn will be my main color, the white yarn my contrasting color, and the gold yarn will be my main color too. So I have cast on my 16 stitches as required, and then we begin with the setup rows. Using this main color, I'm going to begin by knitting 1, and then a knit front and back. If you've never done that before, please refer to my video, knit front and back. Oh, there we go. You can see I have 3 stitches. Now I'm going to place a marker, slip that onto my right hand needle, and then my pattern asks me to knit 3, followed by knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 4, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 3 together. That knit 3 together is really tight, especially on your cast on stitches. So now I'm done with row 1 of my setup rows. Move on to row 2. Still working with the main color. I will do a yarn over, and then I'm going to knit 12. If you've never done a yarn over at the beginning of the row, I have a video for that as well. So you can see that as I am knitting along, I'm working my way back to the marker. These stitches that I am currently knitting right now are always going to be in the knit stitch. They are going to be part of the lace border that we are creating. So when I go ahead and get to my marker, I will just slip that and I will knit these 3 remaining stitches. So those are my setup rows, rows 1 and 2. Turning back, this is the right side facing me. These 3 stitches here, or this area before the marker, is going to become our striped body area of our shawl, and the stitches to the left or after the marker will be in the lace border pattern. At this point, we are going to go from the setup rows to row 3 of the striped body and lace border section. And it is at this point that we are going to begin knitting with all 3 skeins of yarn. The stitches before the marker will be in the main color skein and the contrasting color skein, and the stitches after the marker will be knit with the main color 2 skein for the lace border. And in this demo, that will be my gold yarn. So to begin with, row 3 asks us to go ahead and add in our contrasting color, because row 3 says with contrasting color, knit to marker. So I'm just going to place my needle in that first stitch, join my yarn, and go ahead and knit to the marker. Now when I get to the marker, I'm going to slip my marker, and you can see in bold print in your pattern it says MC2 or main color 2. That means I need to add my second skein of the main color, and for me that's going to be the gold color, and I am going to have to join that or interlock them so that I don't get a hole in this area. And this is done much as it's done in intarsia work. So if you're unfamiliar with that, I do recommend you watch the intarsia video. So to join the first time knitting this, we're going to go ahead and bring my main color 2. For me, that's going to be gold. For you, it will be same as your setup rows. I'm going to go ahead and put my needle into that first stitch and join the yarn. And before I continue, I need to interlock these stitches. We are going to do this each and every time we go either on either side of the marker, which is where we'll change our yarns. So to do that interlock, and it's a little fiddly at first, I am going to take my old yarn that I was knitting with, which is this white one, or your contrasting color. I'm going to put it over the new yarn, or your MC2 skein, and you can see how it is caught underneath when I pick up my main color 2 skein. So that is an interlock. Then my pattern directs me to knit 2. I've already knit 1, so I'm going to go ahead and knit the second one, and then I will knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together. So there we have. In your shawlette, this will still be in the same color as your main color, but with the second skein of your main color. So now we turn our work to the wrong side, and it is time to do row 4. So when we do row 4, we will do a yarn over at the beginning of the row, and we'll go ahead and knit. Pattern says to go ahead and knit 13, but you can easily remember that it's nice to have that number to count to. Grab a little more yarn here, and then, but you'll just knit to the marker because this lace border is a garter stitch base, meaning all of the rows will be in knit. I'm going to work my way to the marker, and remember, I'm going to be changing skeins of yarn, so when I get to this marker, I'm going to go ahead and slip the marker, and now it's time to interlock, meaning I need to catch the old yarn into the new yarn. So I've been knitting, so my main color 2 skeins in the back, I'm going to go ahead and bring that working yarn to the front, and my pattern in row 4 says with contrasting color purl to the end. So I'm going to kind of hold this one off to the left here, pick up my contrasting color skein, and go ahead and purl to the end of the row. So you can see I did my interlocking on the wrong side. In intarsia or any kind of change of color, your interlocking is always done on the wrong side. So now we're going to go ahead, and before we turn, there's something that I like to do before I continue, and that is on the wrong side of my work. I'm going to take these 3 tails that have been getting in my way, and I'm going to just tie them together. And I'm going to leave them that way until I finish maybe say the first repeat or so, because that way they'll be out of my way and I won't accidentally use them in my knitting. So now we're going to turn the work, and it's time to go to row 5. Well, row 5 says with main color, so that is back to my blue skein. Get my little tails out of the way. Here we go. And with my blue skein, or main color, I'm going to knit to 1 stitch before the marker. Because if you look in your pattern, you will see that there's an asterisk at the beginning of the row, letting us know that that is an increase row. So I knit to 1 stitch before the marker, knit front and back. So I've increased 1 stitch, slip the marker, and now it's time to go back to my main color 2 skein. So I must interlock. I'm looking at the right side of my fabric, remembering that interlocking is always done on the wrong side, so I'll bring my old yarn over the new yarn, which for me is the gold, or your main color 2 skein, and now I can start working my lace pattern. Row 5 asks me to knit 1, knit 2 together. yarn here, yarn over, knit 3, yarn over, knit 3 together, yarn over, knit 3, yarn over, knit 2 together. There we are on row 6. So still using my main color skein, remember to always start with the yarn over and then knit 14 or knit to the marker. Oops, missed a little guy there. Now I'm on the wrong side, so when I go to get to the marker, I have to interlock, so I am going to slide my marker. Now I have been knitting with my, and so my working yarn's in the back, but remember interlock's always done on the wrong side, so I bring my working yarn to the front. I'm going to pick up my main color skein up from under it. Now in row 5, it does tell me that I have to knit to the end of the row. So even though, so I do my interlock here on the wrong side, but now the working yarn must go to the back so that I can go ahead and do my knit stitches. Now, you may have noticed that I turn my yarn in a particular fashion, and it helps with the tangling of the yarns a little bit. When I turn my work, I turn after a right side row, I turn my work clockwise, and then after the wrong side row, I turn it back counterclockwise. And that prevents my yarn from tangling and curling up all the time. And it's just a little subtle difference, but it will help. So now we are ready to begin row 7. So on row 7, we have to pick up the contrasting color. So the other thing that makes for a nice tidy edge, you can see that here's my main color and here's my contrasting color. To keep a nice tidy edge and not to add any bulk to it, pick up the new color behind and underneath it. So that's how I'm going to start row 7. And row 7 says with contrasting color, knit to marker. So that's just what I'll do. Slide my marker, and now I have to do my interlock. So bring the old color over the new, pick up the new, and then I do row 7's lace pattern, which is knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 4, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 5, and yarn over, knit 2 together. Turn my work. Now you'll see here I have finished a right side row. I'm going to turn my work clockwise and now work row 8. So knit, yarn over, knit, and row 8 says knit 15. So you can check yourself by counting or be a brave soul and just plain old knit to the marker. And once I get to the marker, I have to do my interlock again. So slide my marker, bring my working yarn to the front because my interlock's always done on the wrong side. So put that old yarn on top of the new yarn, pick up the new yarn, and row 8 asks me to purl with the contrasting color. So keep my yarn in front, and I'm just going to purl the stitches. So I have finished with row 8. Now you'll notice I'm going to then turn this needle counterclockwise, so to help minimize tangling a little bit. That brings us to row 9. So here I have, you can see here's my contrasting color, here's my main color that I need to use, and remember we're going to pick up the yarn under it and go ahead and knit. This is an increase row because there is an asterisk there at the beginning of the row, so you'll knit to 1 stitch before the marker, work a knit front and back, slip my marker, and do my interlock. So old yarn over the new yarn. Here's my new yarn. You can see how that, I'll try to turn that over here. You can see how it actually picks it up. And then I'll work row 9's lace pattern, which is knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 3 together. I'm going to turn, and again turn my needles clockwise, and I'll work row 10. So yarn over and knit 14. Get some more yarn here. So as we're working our way, you can see we have to get off to a little bit of a fiddly start, but once your work gets a little bit of length to it, a little body to it, it becomes quite easy, and you'll be doing this like an old pro in no time. So I'm going to take you to the end of the first repeat. Our setup rows were included in that, so here I am at the marker, ready to interlock again. So slide the marker, bring your working yarn to the front, because our interlocks are done on the wrong side, old yarn over the new yarn, and in row 10 we're going to be knitting these stitches, so we need to take this working yarn, return to the knit position, knit our stripe section stitches, turn our working yarn counterclockwise this time, and we have 2 more rows and we are finished with a repeat. So here we are at row 11. It's asking me to use my contrasting color yarn, so I'm going to pick that up from behind that and go ahead and knit to the marker. And once I get to the marker, I will slip it, do my interlock, which is old yarn over the new yarn, pick the new yarn up from under it, and work my lace pattern, which in this row 11 is knit 3, yarn over, knit 3 together, yarn over, knit 3, yarn over, knit 3 together, yarn over, knit 3 together, and turn to the wrong side, so I'll turn clockwise. Now, one last little thing that I'd like to show you is that when I am doing the wrong side rows where I'm going to be purling, if you're working with circular needles like me, it kind of can get a little tangly here. So you know that by now to do the yarn over, I have to go under the working yarn and then knit. But on this side, and this is just a little tip if you'd like, I go under both of the yarns. And then I go ahead and work my yarn over before the first stitch. The reason I do that is then my contrasting color yarn is not tangled in, although of course it's being fussy now. I'll just go ahead, it won't get in the way of my knitting with my cable needle, or the cable of my circular needle. All right, working our way to the marker to do the last interlock of our first repeat. There I am to the marker, slip the marker, bring my working yarn to the wrong side, bring up the new yarn from under the old, and we're going to be purling, so this time my working yarn can just stay in the front or the purl position, and go ahead and purl those stitches. And I'll turn that counterclockwise. And I'll be right back with what this looks like in two colors. After one repeat of Ridgely, this is what your shawlette will look like. Here we have our striped section, and here we have, using our second color of our second skein of the main color, we have a nice little lace going on. So I'm going to show you just one last interlock. This would be if I were on row 1. So I'm going to go ahead, and here are my contrasting color and my main color. I'm going to pick that up underneath that, behind it. Row 1 is an increase row, so I will then knit to 1 stitch before the marker, work a knit front and back, and then slip my marker, and now I have to interlock. So old color over the new, pick up the new color. Where is it hiding? There it is right here. Old color over the new, pick that up, and then I'll go ahead and just start my lace pattern. So there you have Ridgely Part 1. Happy knitting!